All right, so we're 2 o'clock here on the money, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Guillaume, and thank you for joining this 3CLogic live talk session on how to add voice for a true omnichannel experience, specifically with ServiceNow. Obviously, some of what we might cover could be forward-looking in nature, simply ask that you take that into account. But with that, wanted to kickstart the conversation with just a couple key data points, just to sort of help ground what it is that we're going to cover today. And the first one is that 70% of companies today either have a digital transformation strategy in place or are actively working on one. Obviously, the evolution of digital transformation or the use of digital channels to try and deflect the need to use human resources and call centers to address common inquiries is on the rise. Interestingly enough, though, you'll find that 73% of companies today will say that a lot of those digital interactions will actually frequently still escalate to a live call center agent. So in other words, people weren't necessarily fully capable to address their needs through those digital mediums. Could be chat, could be email, could be a self-service or knowledge portal. In fact, what you'll find is that digital channels alone really can't solve the problem. Only 21% of individuals, customers, will actually rate their digital channel experience as excellent. Now, the goal today is not to suggest that digital channels and digital transformation are not important or don't have a role to play when it comes to customer service. To the contrary, they're absolutely critical in trying to mitigate the need to call a live individual for everything and anything. A password reset, for example, those types of easy requests should not be addressed over telephony. But telephony does still have a very important role to play in combination or to complement those digital transformation efforts that are actively underway today. In fact, if you look at the data, the reality is that customers engage you everywhere. It's not just telephony versus digital channels, it's really the combination of the two. And where a conversation or an inquiry starts will very often not necessarily correlate with where it ends. This is a chart that I love to use, which kind of gives you an idea of how an inquiry might originate and which channels it might ultimately end up being concluded on. So you'll see people will contact you over web, over email, over SMS, and some of those will find their way or migrate over to the need for human assistance. And then conversely, you'll actually see conversations that will start in voice or in the voice channel and eventually find their way or resolution in digital mediums, social media, chat, and so forth. So it's really how you balance the customer experience across these many engagement layers that's really going to make a difference in terms of how well you interact with your customer base and whether or not they're going to be lifelong customers or potentially short-term ones. By virtue of a quick introduction, my name is Guillaume. I'm a vice president here for both business development and marketing at 3CLogic. When it comes to customer service, I've been doing it for well over 15 years for a number of large organizations. And what we're going to cover today, specifically in the context of ServiceNow, is how you can embed the voice channel, which is obviously not a native channel within the ServiceNow platform, in a way that complements the digital mediums that ServiceNow excels at, notably chat, virtual chat bots, self-service and knowledge portals, and obviously the way in which it manages workflow, be it through a ticket, an incident, a case, a service request, or the many different mediums that they go through. And where I'd like to start is obviously how to embed voice as a channel to begin with. So ServiceNow has this very cool feature called OpenFrame. And OpenFrame, which we'll cover here live, is what allows you to integrate and infuse the voice component into the ServiceNow experience. And we're also going to take a quick look at how you can then allow for the voice channel to interplay from an agent presence perspective with the other digital mediums that an agent might also equally be responsible for. So if we switch over here, as an example, what I have here is Agent Workspace. And what you see here in the bottom left-hand corner is an active CTI. Now, CTI stands for Computer Telephony Integration. It's a fancy and technological word for an embedded telephony tool that works through your browser. In this case, I'm using Chrome. So it's much like Skype or any other web-based application that allows me to be the recipient or the one to initiate calls, in this case, specifically from the ServiceNow platform. Now, the trick here is how to bring in or incorporate the soft phone experience into ServiceNow. And OpenFrame is that gateway. So if you were to go into the administrative console inside of ServiceNow and type in OpenFrame, whoops, you'll see that OpenFrame is a platform component of the ServiceNow solution. And if you go into configurations, this is the first place that you would start to embed or whatever soft phone you hope to use into the OpenFrame within ServiceNow. So in this case, as an example, I have a URL here that's calling out to the 3CLogic solution. If I were to right click here, you'll actually see it's going to open up the 3CLogic CTI as a standalone application. So what OpenFrame allows you to do is to take that soft phone, in this case ours, and basically bring it in and embed it inside of the OpenFrame real estate that ServiceNow makes available. So that's step one to really start adding or incorporating voice into the ServiceNow experience. Once you've done that, you can start playing with use cases such as agent screen pops. You can use click to call for an agent to very conveniently initiate a call out from ServiceNow and other use cases similar to it. Now, what we don't want to see happen though is telephony continue operating in a vacuum. So an example being, if I'm already servicing a chat or maybe a couple chats, I don't want a screen pop or a call to come in simultaneously, or vice versa. If I'm already on a call, I would rather ServiceNow not distribute additional interactions, maybe digital interactions, could be a chat as another example, while I'm preoccupied and otherwise unavailable, facilitating that conversation, that call with the end customer. So one of the next steps that you might want to look at is the ability to first incorporate the call as a channel inside of ServiceNow. And where you can do that is within advanced work assignment, which is another component of ServiceNow. You have this concept of service channels. And service channels, you can see here, we've created the concept of a call as an interaction. And so in doing that, what you have is the ability to have calls now be part of the ServiceNow agent status. So an agent, in this case, is available and qualified to receive a case, a chat, an incident, but now you've added the call module in there. And what you want to do is sync it up so that the status of that agent can dynamically change depending on what they might be doing or whom they might be servicing across any of these potential channel mediums. And the way you can do that is going back into the administrative console here. If you type in presence, oops, make sure I can type here. You can set up the idea of a presence state. So you can see here, I've got available, away, active on call. If I click on available, you can see that these are the 4 different mediums that I as an agent am qualified to be available for. And the idea is you can then write conditions in advanced work assignment or AWA to then interplay between the two. So if I'm on a call, perhaps change my present state to active on a call. And in which case, deactivate my availability as an agent for all of the other channels for which I'm qualified for. So an example here, I'm currently available. If I want to do something as basic as a click to call, in this case, I'm calling my cell phone here. You can see, I'm going to mute this, that automatically the status for me as an agent has changed from universally available for just about anything to active on call. And the idea here is that for the duration of that call, I'm not going to receive a case, a chat, an incident until effectively I end the call, perhaps put in my notes, pick a disposition, which is what was the outcome of the call. These are all data attributes that you can use for analytics later. Finalize the call and then move back into a universal state of available to continue working based on the work that ServiceNow would distribute to me. So this is how you can start looking at integrating telephony or voice or the voice channel as an extension or complement to the digital mediums and channels that ServiceNow already natively offers, right? Now, of course, the assumption is that you already have an external soft phone that allows you to call in these services into OpenFrame, which is this box, and then can have the expertise, then work the conditions and the workflows so that everything is working in a symbiotic way. Now, if you've gone the distance, right, of integrating and applying telephony using ServiceNow OpenFrame, which is, again, the native CTI that ServiceNow makes available to facilitate the use case, and maybe you've set up the agent presence, the next step when it comes to telephony is obviously the routing logic, right? So is there a way to embed your call flows and start driving towards intelligent customer experiences if and when a customer feels the need to reach out to your organization? Now, a use case might be that they attempted through digital channels, maybe self-service, to address their own inquiry were unable, unsuccessful, or maybe the issue is too complex to do over chat, and they, for one reason or another, have had the need to call. One of the common issues that we encounter with customers on a regular basis is the lack or inability to control those call journeys. Typically, telephony is sort of a different environment administered by a third-party group, could be another team within the same organization, could be an outsourced group. And so when it comes to telephony, while you may own the agents as a call center help desk, and maybe they're easily responsible for all the digital mediums that you can configure and create in ServiceNow, that may not always be the case when it comes to controlling dynamically the call routes until now. What you can do within ServiceNow, and I'll use 3CLogic obviously as the example, is you can actually integrate, and that's what we've done through an update set using UI pages and so forth within ServiceNow. You can actually create and embed a call center solution that will in fact enable the business to start being able to build their own dynamic call flows. More importantly, call flows that rely on information with ServiceNow to dictate what the experience might be for a customer. For example, if I'm a VIP customer, route me to the VIP team. If I'm calling about a specific case or ticket, maybe dynamically present me the last known update using text-to-speech before determining if I need to be routed to a live agent. And the way you can do that, and I'll pull up an example, is through the ability to build what equates to the same thing you're doing for virtual agent for chat, for example, the ability to build dynamic call flows that allow you to start administering the call experience for anybody that might decide to call into your organization as opposed to going through the digital channels you make available. So here's an example of someone calling in. Maybe they're calling about a case. You can use text-to-speech to present them with the various options that are available to them. So you don't have to start recording those audio files. You can actually use text-to-speech to simply type and effectively very easily change those announcements as callers come through. And the idea here is that now it's not coding, but rather configuration to build using a drag and drop GUI, those call flows, very similar to how you build some of the other workflows within ServiceNow. And when you do that, one of the things that you can really expand on is the ability, I'm going to pull up a different flow here, the ability to build experiences that draw from ServiceNow to one, dictate the routing to whom and how should that experience look to an agent, but also what is the information that might be gathered or presented to the client dynamically. So for example, if someone's calling in as a VIP, perhaps that information is already known in ServiceNow. And so on that basis and that basis alone, we might treat them differently. Can you also check and proactively provide any outages announcements to a customer? So if I'm calling in, maybe my power's out, but it's already a known issue in my area. Can that information be given to me proactively so that I as a customer can drop off and I don't clog the queue only to report something that the organization is already familiar with? So for example, this check outage can leverage an outage table that you would build within ServiceNow and read back within the call experience, the IVR, this message. In this case, obviously COVID's a big hot topic this day or this year. So, presumably maybe there's going to be a delay in services as a result of the impact of COVID. But can you provide and change those alerts and notifications, impact that voice customer journey without necessarily having it to be a huge uplift using technical resources or having to leave the ServiceNow experience altogether? The short answer is no. And so you can solve for voice for the agents, but as I'm showing you here, you can also solve for voice as an incorporated extension at an administrative layer, all from within the ServiceNow platform. The other challenge, and the third one that we'll cover today, obviously, when you look at voice, is also how to look at it from the point of analytics. Obviously, customers will typically reach out to an organization through a couple different channels, usually between 2 and 4 per inquiry. So they may reach out to you over chat, they may call, you may then send them an update over email, and that's perhaps what will conclude. So it's the combination of all 3 of those interactions that are really going to dictate what was the duration or how much time, effort, and resources went into potentially resolving that inquiry, and what can be done to perhaps shorten that resolution time for anybody else calling in with a similar request. But obviously, telephony has to be a component, a data point that sits side by side with those digital channels that ServiceNow solves for, so you can look at the total equation and not just a subset. So when you look at analytics, there are a couple different options. One, when you store in Agent Workspace all of the call data attributes, so these are all calls that have concluded, you can have the timestamp, the duration, the satisfaction of the client if they responded to your SMS satisfaction survey, which is something you can embed. You can have access to the call recording. All that information can serve you in building reports that will combine both 3CLogic data, call data very often, and ServiceNow data, so that you can create visual reports that allow you to see what is the distribution or of the types of requests that you might receive for people that do feel the need to call in. And as an example here, you can see half of the requests are for new feature requests. Well, perhaps that's something that should, in fact, I would argue, should be automated using some of the self-service or KB portal that ServiceNow makes available. And the idea being here, so that your agents, which are obviously expensive, but nonetheless very valuable resources, can really address things that merit their skill sets. So addressing outages or performance issues within your network, or general service requests, depending on their severity. And it's the idea of being able to allow for the voice component or channel to be visually available, no different than how you interpret some of the other digital channels that you use to serve your end customers through the ServiceNow platform. An alternative, though, if we really go further, is to look at data beyond just the traditional data points that you would expect. So here you have an example of a ServiceNow phone table or phone log table, where you've got the basics, the start time, the end time, the duration of the call. But you can also see the concept of events or moments, positive moments, negative moments, neutral moments. And so what you see here, if I open it up, is the ability to enrich ServiceNow with information that is very specific to the conversation that actually took place between your agent and your customer. So for example, here's a transcription of the call, as well as the analysis of the conversation. Where was the agent empathetic? What moments within the call were otherwise neutral, displayed courtesy as an agent? And which events, perhaps things that you want to flag, were negative? And for example, supervisor escalation, or perhaps a negative tone on behalf of the customer was detected. When you can start incorporating those insights into ServiceNow, then you have the luxury of then using what ServiceNow obviously excels at, which is the ability to build workflows to drive proactive outcomes and actions. So you could use the flow designer, for example, to data mine those voice moments that have been obviously loaded into ServiceNow to enrich the ServiceNow tables, to say, for example, anytime there is a negative call or negative sentiment was detected within the tone of the conversation that most recently took place, then go ahead and create proactively a task that can get assigned to a supervisor. So the goal here is, one, to modernize voice as a channel in the context of everything else that's happening almost in every organization when it comes to digital transformation. Voice is still obviously a very important extension of the customer service value chain. What we want to do is bring it up into the modern era in a way that actually complements a lot of what you're already most likely might plan to build within ServiceNow, and to do it so it's not operating independently as its own standalone channel, but one in conjunction with the other channels that an agent might be universally available or responsible for. So an agent may be responsible for fielding calls, but when not on a call, maybe they need to field some of the other channels that ServiceNow natively makes available. So if you haven't guessed it, when it comes to 3CLogic, this is, of course, what we excel at. We are the leading cloud call center solution for ServiceNow, and our goal is to help modernize communication, specifically when it comes to voice-enabled solutions in the context of self-service, as well as live agent support. And we already do this for a number of customers across a number of different continents as a certified store, app, and technology partner of ServiceNow. And everything we do is cloud hosted. In this case, we use Amazon Web Services, which provides us the scalability, the flexibility, the reliability that you would typically expect of a cloud platform. So hopefully this was a little bit informative with regards to not only the role that voice can play in the context of your existing or perhaps future install of ServiceNow, but what are the components within the ServiceNow platform that you can start working with to embed whatever telephony solution you have in place, or perhaps, if you're open to it, considering a solution like 3CLogic to address that need or use case, depending on where you are in your cloud adoption. If anything that I've covered today during the course of this live talk session piqued your interest, or you'd like to explore how telephony or a voice platform like call center solution with ServiceNow could potentially complement some of your own digital transformation goals and initiatives, or perhaps how it could complement your existing telephony install, feel free to reach out to us at servicenow@3clogic.com. You can also reach us at info@3clogic.com. And we are also hosting a number of different sessions on our private channel for the upcoming ServiceNow Now at Work event this October, coming October 6th. So if you have time, we'd love for you to join. We'll have amazing use cases in regards to voice-based self-service, integrated speech analytics, as well as some of the other traditional use cases that in part we covered today. With that, again, I know your time is valuable, so I certainly want to thank you for taking time out of your valuable day to spend some time with us to learn a little bit more about how voice can complement your ServiceNow installation. We'll have additional events like these in the future, so stay tuned. If anything you heard was of interest, we'll be adding more topics in the coming future. With that, thanks again for joining, and we hope you have a great day.